Hello. Hello, everybody. My name is Matt Mitchell, and I'm the Director of Athletics here at Westminster. On behalf of the college, we would like to welcome everyone to the 2021 Symposium and this afternoon's session. We're extremely excited to have our speaker today. He's already spent some time with several of our students, and it's been a very enjoyable period of time, and we're really looking forward to the next hour that we get to spend. I would like everyone here to give a warm Blue Jay welcome to four-time All-American, three-time NCAA champion, two-time world champion, Olympic bronze medalist, and a Columbia, Missouri native, Mr. Jaden Cox.
Thanks, sir. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I hope so. Gosh, I'm practically almost the same age as most of them. But it's nice to be here. Thank you guys so much for having me. Thank you for the great introduction, Matt. So I gotta say thank you to Dr. Perry for allowing me to come in. But so today I'm kind of gonna give a little backstory, and I hope this brings a lot of questions. And we're gonna be talking about a very sensitive subject, especially when it comes to race and issues, in our country. Amongst us all, things we may not see and realize and whatnot. But I think the easiest way to do it is to tell you a little bit about myself, my story. Obviously, I'm from here. I'm from Columbia, Missouri. Grew up here. And honestly, I have a little bit different story than a lot of others who obviously look at me and are also in the same predicament as me as far as being in the sport of wrestling and an athlete in general. But as an athlete, for me, athletics actually shielded me away from a lot of racial issues until I went to Colorado. So, through high school, I was very successful. I wrestled a lot. My mother and my sister are right here. We grew up wrestling. That's what we do. We weren't good at anything else. That's the only reason we chose the sport. So we really sucked at everything. Like anything with a ball, don't invite me to play. But we wrestled, and that's what we did. And we grew up in the country. And I was brought up. My grandmother's white. I have a whole Caucasian side of my family, so I was kind of brought up in a mixed family. So I got to bond with people of different races very early on in my life. So I never really, from my side of things, really saw issue, right? But then on top of that, my success actually shielded me from those issues because people treated me different. I think success actually can help, keep people from experiencing things that others who maybe don't have the limelight or don't have, the following or the backing that I had. And so through high school, I was very shielded and I didn't really experience much of things. And even going through college, who remembers when Mizzou at one point, I think it was 2016 or so, was seen as one of the most racial issued schools in America. Does anyone remember that? I remember that, and I particularly remember it because like literally at that point in time, Mizzou was put on my back at that point in time. And there were a lot of things happening. A lot of people were angry with each other. There were a lot of protests and things going on. And I remember that even from that, for the most part, I was shielded. I think I only had to talk about issues there one time. And for the most part, I was told to that, hey, just kind of mush it to the side. Don't really talk about it. But I did talk about it within my team. And there were things within my team that I didn't realize were issues necessarily that, not that they weren't issues in general, but things that they were having to deal with. Like even how often they'd walk down the street and someone would, say a slur, right? Or even the treatment of different situations or similar situations between two different people of color. And so I was even shielded from that. And that wasn't until that moment that like my eyes were really open to it. And then even my own experience fasting forward to when I moved out to Colorado. Colorado was the first time for me that I experienced my first bout of like real, like, this is kind of a problem. Like, well, I'm gonna put it like this. I realized I was black at this moment. So like, this was I realized I'm black. I went and I won a world title in 2018. I used the money to buy a house, really nice house, great neighborhood. I am out doing my lawn, right? I'm doing my lawn, and I have to do my lawn often. I have an HOA. It's a pain in the butt, but I enjoy doing lawn work. I go out and do my lawn, and I go and I do it, and a policeman shows up. There's two of them in a car, come up, and they ask me, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Well, I'm doing my lawn here." And like, "Well, we got a call that there was a gentleman, suspicious looking gentleman at this address, and we just make sure things are good and everything." I'm like, "Oh no, things are all right." Right. And then they were actually pretty cool. They let me go. It happened another time, kind of the same thing happened. But the third time, all right, two people come up. All right, they're the police officers. They come to me and they're like, "Excuse me." And the first thing that peeved me was they say, "Excuse me, boy. Don't call me boy." All right, but he says, "Excuse me, boy. What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm doing my lawn." He's like, "Your lawn?" I was like, "Yeah, this is where I live. This is my house." He then goes and says, "Well, can you prove to me this is your house?" I'm like, wow, I don't have to. I don't have to prove to you that this is my house, because what do you like? And also do note, like, my garage is open, my front door is open, like this is a very open scene, right? He comes, says, "Can you prove this is your house?" I'm like, I don't have to prove this is my house. And he's like, "Well, we got a call that there's a suspicious black African-American male, out here in these parts." I'm like, "I haven't seen any. Like, I haven't seen one. I don't know who you're looking for." Like, I didn't know what he wanted to hear. So this kind of goes on. He starts talking with his partner, and he's like, "I'm really going to need to see some identification of proof that you live here." I'm like, "No, you don't. And in fact, like, you're on my property. And if you don't step off of it, I will call the police and I will get you removed. And I'd like it if you leave." And he's like, "Well, if you want to go down that road, like, we can do this a hard way." And I'm like, "I don't think this is going to go the way you think it will." And so then his partner, who was a little bit of a, I guess, realized this situation was going to boil over, comes and talks to him. And basically what it comes down to is like, I'm gonna start asking, like, "Hey, I want numbers. I want your badge number. I want to figure this stuff out." And then they're like, "You know what? You have a good day." And it's like, "Well, you have a good day too." And he's just like, "You just make sure you stay." And literally before he leaves, says, "Make sure you stay in your lane." I did not know what that meant. And that was my first bout with actual, like, wow. And you have to understand, the neighborhood I live in is predominantly white, right? And so that's where it really shocked me. Like, I was like, wow, like this is something that I've only experienced now because of the success that I've had has shielded me away from a lot of these things, because people see me a different light, and sports can be a way out of kind of those or a way to shield you from those kind of situations. But in this moment, in a place I wasn't really known, I just moved, people don't know me really, like, it was completely different. And you have to know, this whole time before, I lived in Missouri. So like, a lot of people know me, a lot of people understand what I've done, and they see me in a different light. And it was kind of crazy to me that was the thing. And then I started to pay a little more attention, I started paying a little more attention to the news and seeing things that were happening in the world. I had friends calling me when the reason I'm part of an association called the Black Wrestling Association. My friend Nate Jackson called me up and was talking about everything that was going on, all the deaths, all the police brutalities, everything that was going on, and talking about the fear. And for once in my life, I finally felt that fear for myself. And he asked me, I remember he asked me, he has any, I think it was Kevin Gatz, he's another Olympic caliber wrestler, and saying, like, what do we do? What's supposed to happen? How do we fix this? And I didn't have an answer for the big picture at the time. But I did know for myself was that I couldn't stay blind. I couldn't stay naive to it. I couldn't just let it be about me in what I experience in my situations, and then just avoid it with everybody else and let them go through their thing. Because as much as like I despise people who do wrong, I also have the same, if not equal, feeling towards those who have the ability to do something or do something right and do nothing at all. Like I can't stand that. I may not instigate things. You may not instigate it. You may not be a part of it. You may not be saying something. You may not be part of the racial issue. But if you do nothing to stop it, then is there really, in my mind, is there really a difference? And I know for some of you, especially for those who are of a different race, who are Caucasian, I don't say this to push you away, right? I'm not speaking of this. I understand it could be uncomfortable. We're talking about some serious stuff. And I'm going to tell you right now that there's no way that you can comprehend what some of us have had to go through, how some of your classmates, some of your teammates, some people that you see walking around your campus, there's no way you can comprehend what they have to go through and understand. That's why it's more important for you to hear their stories and listen, not to respond, but to truly understand, to truly try to figure out what can I do so you can actually see it, right? But I don't say this to push you away. All this stuff that you've been seeing on the news, all the protests, all the Black Lives Matters, everything like that, it is not meant to push you away. We don't tell this to you to pull people of another race, of especially whites, Caucasian people. We don't tell you this to pull you down. We tell you this so you can help pull us up. That's why we make the noise that we make. And even for things like kneeling for the flag, I am going to state this, and I will state it once because it shouldn't be any doubt. I've represented this country going on for my 5th time. I just made another world team. I love this country. All right. I love this country with every bit of me. All right. I wear USA proudly, red, white, and blue all the way. I am born here. I love it here. This is what I'm meant to do. And I do it with a lot of pride, with a lot of honor, and with a lot of respect. Okay. So I do not want that to get confused with what I'm about to say. But even for those people who kneel when the national anthem is played, the craziest thing is, especially for me as a Black man, there's been 2 instances in my life where I've just been completely blanked on what to think, right? And the first goes towards this, is that more people are outraged at a voiceless flag than for those who are voicing their opinions and crying out for help, for true lives. More people get angry at a flag that has no voice, no mouth, nothing to speak, nothing at all, over those who lose their lives on the street. And that's insane. I get it that red, white, and blue in the flag means a lot. I know what it represents, and I represent it proudly, right? But what makes that flag is the people. You're part of that. I'm part of that. Anyone here that truly knows what this country stands for and supports it is part of that. And I do agree. I think America is the greatest country in the world. But just because something's great doesn't mean it can get better. I didn't win my gold medals and I didn't win my bronze medals by being like, you know what? I'm pretty darn good. I'm going to sit on the couch and take a break. Why would we run the country the same way? Why do we walk through our days the same way? It doesn't make any sense. Just because you can say or believe that this is the greatest country in the world doesn't mean that you don't have work to do. And my response to people who say, if you don't like it, get out and go to another country, well, then this isn't the greatest country. If I have to go somewhere else to have something better, then you can't state that America is the greatest country. But I truly do. I truly do believe it. And I think that just because it's great doesn't mean that there's not more we can do to make it even better. We still have to take steps, still have to continue moving forward, still continuing the fight to better ourselves and better this country. And there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that have happened. I mean, I remember even just on the way here, I was talking with my mother, and I was just like, Another moment that I was truly lost was I watched people storm the Capitol of America. And I think there was only one fatality. And yet I know of many African Americans who have been walking home in their homes, chilling out, or even doing misdemeanor things and lose their lives over it. And if that to me or to you doesn't show that there is a difference, that's a problem. And that's why, even more so, that I'm even grateful to be here, to have this talk, to be able to talk with you guys, to answer questions, and to be able to help you figure it out. Because the main thing that I want to say here today, that I want you guys to get, is that there is no power in not using your voice at all. And in fact, in this situation, for those who are allies, your voice, sadly, will carry a lot more weight than even mine or any other African American for that part. Your voice actually will be listened to. You're looked at differently. You're seen differently, right? People feel comfortable. Some people won't feel comfortable talking with me. I've tried to have this conversation with some of my friends, and it just doesn't click. It doesn't make sense because they can't get it. They can't wrap their minds around it. You know, and then even for some of them, they'll be like, I know I get it. Like, I've kind of been through something. Like, no, you haven't. You don't know what it's like to be driving down the street. You see a cop car pull up next to you. You're like, oh my gosh, Lord, not today. Don't let it happen. You don't know what it's like to have to be sat down by your parents. And we've had this talk and be told this is what you do when the police show up. I mean, just think about it. Some people walk through this life in this country literally fearing for their lives for no other reason than the fact that their pigment's a little bit darker. I can't even for me, it's like wrapping your head around that. And it's a blessing that some of you are free of that. But I'm asking you to also use that freedom to combat that with us so that we can have the same liveness that some of you guys get to walk through and not have those struggles, right? It's not a bad thing that we're different. It's not a bad thing that challenges are different, that we have different tastes, cultures are different. It's not bad at all. I have no problem with that. I'm actually proud of that. But I'm also a man of faith, right? And my faith has shown me that there are things that you're blessed with from the grace of God that I am not. I have no idea what it's like to be white. I've been called an Oreo a couple times, but I don't think it's the same thing. Like, it's not, right? But I have no idea what it's like to be white, to have blonde hair, blue eyes. I have no idea. You have no idea what it's like to be black. You have no idea. And my faith tells me that I am supposed to get to know you even more. It tells me that there is an essence of God that I don't fully get or understand. And so I should get to know you, and that gets me closer to him. And I know some of you guys, you may not believe in that, and that's fine, but this is just my perspective. But even if it wasn't a God, just knowledge itself, knowledge, growth, becoming more. There are things of you that I don't get, and there are things of me that you don't get. So why deny that? And I just want you guys to understand that these conversations, like I said, anyone who truly tries to put you down, especially if you're of a white race trying to listen to this, put you down with this conversation, they're wrong for that. You shouldn't be. I'm telling you this to inform you. I'm telling you this so that you can hear what's really going on. I'm telling you this so you can help give people footing in a situation and in a world where sometimes it feels like all you do is fall down. That's the main reason why I came to do this. And that's why I'm grateful to have done this. There are a lot of issues that circulate this in different avenues of our lives. You know, even for me, from athletics to life, how I live, even with politics, all of this. It bleeds into everything that we do. And honestly, I don't even think that you guys, and I'm going to speak to the age group in this room, I really don't believe you're even the problem. I believe that our youth actually is more accepting. Would you guys agree or not agree? Give me a nod of heads if I can see that. Okay. Right? Our youth is more accepting. Right? But if for some reason it's our elders, no, we got a few stragglers that we need to bring up. We do. But our youth is more accepting. And I think that when you ask, like, what do we do? I think what we do is we bond together. All right, we become the education. We become, hi, how should I see this person? We become, how should I handle the situation? We become, hey, this is where I need to go. This is what I need to do to help this person, to help this Black Lives Matter, help this organization. That's what I believe. And I think that we're on our way. But there's a lot of people out there, especially those who are older, a little bit older, or have been misled, that are being a little bit louder. And what I think is the big thing is here is that there's a fear that if I talk about it, I'm going to be shunned. That's what's going to happen. You will be. When you talk about this stuff, even me right now, with all my prestige and all the things I've done, when this gets put out or someone says anything, I will be ridiculed. I will be put down. They will try to silence you. It doesn't matter who you are. It's the truth. They would try to be like, you know what? You're just bringing up stuff, old news and stuff that shouldn't be talked about. Old news? Are you kidding me? People talk about police brutality like it's a new thing, like it hasn't been around forever. They're going to try and shut you down. Doesn't matter what race you are. So what I'm here to ask you today is to have the courage to have these conversations, talk with your friends. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And those who are Black and have these guys, hey, don't get offended so easy when your friends come to talk to you about it. All right? Talk them through it. Talk them through your experiences. Understand that they're coming to you to learn. All right? But have these conversations. Let go of the fear of like, hey, people aren't going to like me so much. I would rather be not liked for doing the right thing than be loved for either keeping my mouth shut or doing the wrong. And that's a big reason why I came here, to do this. So for me, guys, we got to bond. We have to have these conversations. We have to talk more. We have to be open. We have to be accepting. We have to be willing to teach. We have to be willing to learn. And most importantly, we have to be willing to listen. All right. And that's where I'm going to stop so we can have some questions.
Thank you, Jaden. We really appreciate you being here today. Thank you. For the people that are in the auditorium, feel free to come forward to ask some questions when it's available. We also have some questions filtering in through technology. I don't know what that means, but somehow questions are popping up on this machine here. But I would like to get started with a question. Obviously, Jaden, you've traveled the world through athletics and competition and the beauty that everything that brings. Can you compare other nations to our nation? Similarities with what you're seeing with race at other places? contrasting play ideas, thoughts?
Well, honestly, not so much because I haven't been anywhere long enough to really experience it. But I do know for me, when I go to other funny thing, it's actually kind of funny. I go to other places, people are more amazed to see me because I'm Black. I think, Mike, we've experienced this a little bit, like, man, like some places they've never seen someone who's a Black, African-American Black man. So I've had people come up and like pinch my skin, touch my hair. It's been interesting. And so they're very like interested. And I think it's a little bit easier because most of the time they know who I am and they're associated with wrestling. As far as like really knowing where their stances are, that's a little bit hard for me to describe because when I go overseas, I'm there to compete. And so the people that I get to associate with are other wrestlers. Now, I've never had a problem with any other competitor or their coaches from another country as far as race goes. But wrestling, as you know, is a different sport. There's a different level of respect. It's too grueling, too grindy to get get into it over something like that. So pretty much everyone really shows respect, kindness towards one another as long as you show it towards them. And that's something that's held on to.
Okay, so I was just kind of wondering, what is your thought like? So do you believe we're still in the same place as we were like, say, like 10, 15, 20 years ago, or have we moved forward at all? Like as in like the racial issue, are we like still in the same place, or do you think as are we moving forward?
I'm going to say yes and no to that question. Okay, so I believe that we have moved forward as far as African Americans have become more confident about talking about these issues and bringing them up and bonding together to fight them. And have become, I think, just better at doing so. I'm going to say no because we still see a lot of issues, and I know a lot of people, want to blame the media for that, but no, duh. All right, it went from back in whatever 1960s or whatever to you didn't have many cameras or anything like that, so you only saw little bits of it, to now you have a camera in every corner of the world. So yes, you're going to see a lot more of what goes down. All right, it's just common sense. More cameras means you're going to see it a lot more often, and it's still something that needs to be fought and needs to be, fought against. So I think that yes, for African Americans, as far as growing, and also for others who are willing to listen and to fight with, I think that's something we've grown on. But as far as issues that need to be dealt with, they're still around. Like a lot of things that are happening that some people are just now aware of they're not new. They've been here the whole time. They've been issues for years, right? Now, granted, I'm not going to sit up here and say that, yes, we're still in chains and in working fields and stuff like that. I'm not going to sit here and say that. But I think that we can still do a better job, right, for people to see others as people, to see people as individuals, seeing their differences not as challenges to who they are or to as disrespect, but as something that they need to get to know and learn about, and understanding their issues. And so I think that one of the biggest differences too is that more people are willing to listen because they can see it, because it's out there, and that's really where, like, I truly believe that the big differences is from 10 years ago to now.
Okay, thank you.
Hi there. I thought that your discussion was really thoughtful and thought-provoking, but I just had one question for you, and it's kind of open-ended, so I'm not sure how broad it would be. But you've talked a lot about empowering people to speak up and to bring these issues to the forefront of discussion. But what do you personally think we should do as a society to further advance the role that people of color play in our society? What do you think we should do specifically about that?
So as far as you?
Well, I mean, as far as what we can all do collectively to improve the social standing of all people, especially those who have been marginalized.
Well, I think you have to start with talking with those around you. You have to, right? Because one, you don't want to go into this, you in particular, right? I'm not going to single you out, but I'm saying anyone, especially who's white, should definitely, all right, have conversations with their counterparts, right? To understand, not understand, but to try and learn as much as possible about what's going on, what they're going through. Because the last thing you want to do, all right, as someone who wants to be an ally, is misspeak. Right?
Sure.
You need to understand where people are coming from, why this is happening. You need to understand what people are feeling, right? Because the last thing that we need in particular is for you to go in blind and guzz the hoe and, you know, saying left, right, and then we look bad, right? We look bad. The fight that we're trying to go against looks bad, right? It makes it worse. So communication is key. Without communication, you'll have nothing, right? And then on top of that, once you are informed, I have no problem with you. Hey, you show support in any way or fashion that you can, right? When something goes down, you don't just stay silent. I think also, right, be educated on everything that goes down. I'm the first one to admit, hey, there have been some situations where, hey, we need to get all the pieces to this, right? And I'm all for that, right? We have to have that because we have to have a good argument, a good statement, because this stuff is definitely real. And I don't want any stone that there's able for anything, even remotely, if there's a racial issue, for you to be able to hide under, to be like, okay, this is not a, like, this wasn't racial, this was this. Like, I don't want that, because we know, we understand, right? So the biggest thing for you at this moment, in this turn, is to get educated, all right? Talk to people, right? Educate organization. I'm sorry, but educate yourself on organizations. Understand what they're standing for, what they're fighting for, all right? And then when it comes time and you finally have that and you've had these conversations, you talk, that you do go and support, all right? Hey, if there's something that happens on campus and you've done your research, you know what happens, and you've talked with your friends and stuff, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna stand with you in this, all right? And I think that was one of the reasons for me that I didn't really stand in 2016, because I wasn't informed, right? I didn't know everything. I was, like I said, I was shielded. It wouldn't have been smart for me to speak. It wouldn't have been smart for me to say anything, because I had no idea what I was talking about. I had no idea what truly was going on. I was very lost on things, right? So I'm not gonna speak out of turn. So before you do anything, educate yourself, have these conversations, and then progress forward, okay?
Thank you very much. I appreciate your answer.
No problem.
Hello, I was wondering, you used to train under Mike and Tony Ironman in Kingdom City while you were training at Mizzou and before. Why did you decide to change from training under them to training at the Olympic Training Center when you started becoming a world-class wrestler?
Well, for me, I trained with Mike. If you guys don't know, Mike Ironman's right here, right? He's been my coach since I was like 8 or 9 years old. So for me, I think that with your statement, where I train can be where I train, but Mike Ironman is and forever will be my coach.
Yeah.
You understand? I can travel the world. Like, Mike is one of those people in my life that I could probably go 30 years without talking to, and I could call him up and I could start a conversation and we'd go off, right? We'd talk forever, like we'd never missed a beat, right? Now, the reason that I left Mizzou was because I'd take an opportunity to train at the Olympic Training Center. It was a great opportunity. On top of which, you know, I got funded. I was able to train with Kevin Jackson, who's also a great coach and a great mentor, both, you know, on the mat and as a man, as a husband. And he's just been great to me. And on top of that, the person who supported me and actually told me that that was a good idea is sitting right there in that chair, right? So that was my big reason. He said, you need to go and do this. And that didn't take away from what that, you know, it's funny because a lot of coaches want to be praised on how good they do at coaching you, right? And what makes Mike a great coach is that he's a great coach at understanding out how you need to be coached. And it's not about his ego and his recognition, you know? And he knows from the depths of his heart, the same way I do know for mine, that I love him unconditionally, and that everything that I do is a testament to him, from my mentality to my work ethic to how I speak to people, to how I carry myself. It's a testament to him, right? Without Mike Ironman, KJ doesn't have a chance to coach Jaden Cox. Without Mike Ironman, I don't make it to where I am today. Without Mike Ironman, I don't have the mentality that I have today. I don't have the basis of where my technique comes from. And also, without Mike Ironman, I don't have one of the best relationships I have in my life.
Thank you.
No problem. Oh no, it's my mother.
Hi, son.
Hold up for this one.
So I know that you and KJ and Nate Jackson and several of your other brothers and sisters in wrestling are the founding folks behind the Black Wrestlers Association. Could you talk to us a little bit about the Black Wrestlers Association and what putting the Black Wrestlers Association has maybe done in the wrestling world, how it's kind of, how has it affected the wrestling world positively or negatively? What have you found there?
Well, so as you guys know, I kind of touched just a little bit, so I think I'll go a little deeper. So the BWA was funded by Nate Jackson. He's the president, and Kerry McCoy is the VP. And so basically, you just started off with, like I said, a call from Nate Jackson. And I'm going to be very honest about conversations I've had with these guys, because not everything's sunshine and rainbows, and I'm very particular on what I want to get done. So Nate, Kyvan Gadsden, and I were talking. I think a couple others were in there too, but the biggest thing was, what do we do? And one of the biggest things that we found out, especially within our sport, with things that were going on, is that we felt very alone. And it really stemmed off of, there was an incident, and I think Mike and Ma, you'll remember, with Scrap Life, of a statement that was put out talking about Black athletes and things that were going on in the world. And that made us feel even more excluded as to the issues that we were facing in the real world, and now within the wrestling world, seeing that these views are not just something we can ignore anymore. And one of the biggest things is that we felt alone, like we had no power. We basically just had to take it, and maybe some people would just put out an angry tweet and stuff like that, and that's not enough. And so Nate wanted to form an organization that was, going towards empowering Black males and females, all right, and helping them also put them in higher positions of power within the sport, meaning head coaches, coaching positions, referees, and stuff like that. So that's like a main point. And we got into contact with people like, and it's amazing, because the Black Wrestling Museum, actually, there's a Black Wrestling Hall of Fame, right? That gets chastised because it's the Black Wrestling Hall of Fame, because it has the word Black in front of it, and it has Black people in it because it's for Black people, right? It's crazy, but I even gotten in touch with them. And basically our goal, all right, is to empower Black males and females, all right, to be able to give them a voice, but also give them the means and stand with them to allow them to excel both on the mat as far as positions and as far as getting jobs within the sport, and to have a voice when things go wrong, because we've had a lot go on, and I'll get into that, but also off the mat as far as financially, when it comes to business, seeing the discrimination and differences between, contracts that are being signed, understanding even from, not only from, just Blacks and whites, but even from male to female. I'm actually part of like that organization which works with female athletes because of my connections with Wrestle Like a Girl, which is another organization that I'm with on the council for. So like that's basically what we are set up to do. And as far as positively, it's positively affected those who literally felt the same way as we did, that didn't have anywhere to turn to. Now people have somewhere to turn to when something goes down. I mean, think about this. We had just got done winning a national title. The next month or week or so, some kid was having his hair cut. And that was the biggest story, that there was a kid having his hair cut because was it too long? Yeah, it was dreadlocks, right? And that became a thing, right? And so and that was within our sport of wrestling. We've had cases where there were referees using, racial slurs towards athletes in matches or towards coaches doing things, coaches using racial slurs. So we've seen this take part. And so really, I think the positive outlook is that we've given people a place and a platform, to one, feel safe to speak their mind and understand that there's people that are willing to stand with you and that are capable of doing something about it. I think for the longest time, we were having a lot of issues that were happening. One, that were going, like everyone was turning a blind eye, not being talked about because there was nothing you could really do. There was nothing to be said. No one really knew about it. And so now we've actually created a platform to give those who feel voiceless, give them a voice, give them a platform to come to us, to let us help them out with these issues that they are facing day in and day out. Now, as far as negatively, how does it affect things? I mean, I don't think there is a negative outlook other than the fact that there might be people who disagree. Why does it have to be a Black Wrestling Association? Like, I almost it kind of confuses me sometimes, because if you look within the Black Wrestling Association, there's a lot of people of different races working within it as well, who are a part of it, that we want people to join. We want people to try and support. Any organization that is facing issues like this, especially racial ones, they are not trying to exclude you. They want people to join. The only way you will be excluded is if you exclude yourself. If you say, I'm not having these conversations, I'm going to walk away, I'm not going to do this, you exclude yourself and you walk away from the whole entire situation, the whole entire scenario, and you say, screw it, I'm out. Right? And I see that a lot. And I see it a lot with people who don't even have a problem with people of other races. They'll just be like, I'm uncomfortable, I don't like it, I'm out. And it's just kind of like, well, who did the excluding? You or me? I'm sitting here having a conversation with you. You decide to walk away, right? So our organization does not want to push anyone away. And on top of that, I do want to preface, because I said I'd be honest, I remember Nate asking me to be a part of the BWA, and I told him without batting an eye, I said, if this goes away, that I don't see it being productive or seeing it being actually helpful, I will not have a problem disassociating myself from it, right? I won't have a problem with it, and I'll find my own way to help in any means I can, right? And so far, it hasn't been the case, making gains and growing it slowly but surely, and trying to become, a big focal point in the wrestling community. And I think it's already made waves, and it's making people be more aware of things that are going on. Already within like the USOPC, within USA Wrestling, we already had our own NGB, all right, our national governing. We were able to have a whole entire meeting, and they were 120% behind us and allowing us to do this and supporting us. So to have the highest level of our sport supporting us and backing us is amazing and huge, and which is allowing us to handle things from any age group, any scenario. And when we get a complaint or anything like that, we don't just jump in. We research, we try to figure out what's going on, get the full story. We're not trying to just be gung-ho, all right? Like I said, as much as I told you, you got to educate yourself, we still got to be educated on every situation, everything that goes down, all right? We can't just be like, oh, there's a white person, there's a Black person, there's a racial difference, problem. We can't do that, right? We have to know what's going on, what occurred. We have to go to many different sources, avenues to figure out what's going down. And we even reach out to people individually and talk about, hey, tell us the side of the story, figure things out. So we don't do anything rash. We don't do anything unreasonable, because something like that, if we're wrong, it could come back to bite us, right? So we want to make sure we're right. This is too serious of an issue to be wrong about. No problem.
So my question is kind of two-parted. The first one is, obviously social media is a big thing right now. What would you suggest or advise people to do to get their voices heard, and also piggyback off their voices and kind of help, whether you're white or Black, just like you said, to kind of bring, like, even out the playing field, but also being a college or a student athlete, what does that platform mean to people, and how can they use that to, I don't know what the right word is, but bring justice or, equal out the playing field and make sense of what's going on right now?
For sure. Well, I'm going to give you a kind of funny but obvious answer. Get more followers. You want your voice to carry more, get more followers. Like that's literally what it is. You know, I think a big question as far as being an athlete, and I thought one question that would come up is like, should athletes and politics or social issues mix, right? And my answer to that is like, they have never been untwined. Through the beginning of time, they have always been mixed together. Social issues in athletics, politics and athletics, they've always been mixed. And the only difference between you know, possibly you tweeting or putting something on Instagram and me is that I got over 60, 70,000 followers. I don't know if you do. I'm not going to put that on you. I'm going to say like, right, but you don't have to tell me the number. I'm going to say like, I don't think you have more followers on Instagram than me, right? So if I post something, we post the same thing, I'm probably going to get a lot more attention for it, right? And so it's right for me to use my platform to do that, right? To use my platform to be like, hey, this isn't right. Bring attention to this. And honestly, for me, I don't even go into my comments. Like you're talking about going on social media, like I don't even go to my comments and conversate with people, right? I don't do that. I like to do one-on-ones because honestly, when's the last time you ever went on Facebook and had a comment war and came out okay with it? It really doesn't happen, right? It's not how things work. I'll do one-on-ones. I remember I've had a conversation with a gentleman where, you know, I talked about there being a difference between races, and this gentleman had posts on my Facebook post about basically about the flag, and he was talking to other people about the Confederate flag, right? And so for me, it worked out for me. Like I literally FaceTimed this gentleman, and I think I told you about this one, Mike. I'm not sure. Did I tell you about this, Mike? About the Confederate flag conversation with this guy? So we had a talk. I FaceTimed him personally. And I was like, hey man, like you don't really know me, but we're friends on Facebook. And I know this is kind of weird, but like I want to talk to you about your stance on the Confederate flag, right? And like what's going on. And you know, he starts telling me about the history and stuff I kind of already know, like the common argument, like, it's a lifestyle, it represents lifestyle and it's not really racist. And like I would never feel that way, but like I just can't stand these people talking about it in this way. And like it's a flag, it's a Southern thing. And I was like, okay. I was like, I completely hear you. I completely hear, I understand what you're coming from, and it makes sense. There's something that means something to you, right? And then we talk a little bit more, and I was like, so what if, I was like, all right, let me ask you this. What if there was a flag that represented, and I'm going to use some choice, a flag that represented rape? Would you support that? He said, no. I said, what if there was a flag that represented murder? Would you support that? He said, no. So what if there was a flag that represented just and let's say just even a small thing like treating people with just the maximum level of disrespect? He said, no way. I want to respect everyone. I want to do that. I was like, so my point of view and what others' point of view to your argument about the Confederate flag and it being a lifestyle is like what it represents to them are all those things. That flag literally was raised and in people's homes who did those things, who actually fought to keep people under, who actually fought to keep slaves in chains. That's what it represents to them, right? So when you see them getting angry, and I understand, I don't condone people cursing you out on Facebook. I don't condone people getting mad at you and all that stuff. I don't, because the only way we can get through this is having a real conversation, right? And that's why I took the time to call you and talk to you about it, right? I called you so we could talk about this. You have to see where they come from and what they see. They don't see a lifestyle of farming and Southern life. They see torture, they see pain, they see history of their ancestors being in chains. They see hatred. They see struggle. That's what they see. And you know what this gentleman sits there and tells me? He's like, you know what? I never really thought of it like that. Never did, right? I never thought that way from their perspective. And he's like, no one really has talked to me about it. But like, I've just kind of been getting in fights about it. And I was like, well, now you know. He's like, well, I don't know if I'm going to take my Confederate flag down from my front lawn, but like, I will be more considerate of when we have these conversations with other people. And now that's one instance. And to me, that makes a huge difference because this person was hell-bent that the Confederate flag was not offensive and it was fine, right? And to have that conversation with someone and have them and hear them out, right? And I think that's the big thing when you talk about having these conversations, hearing this other person out, even though it's something I don't like to hear or I disagree with, so that they know that I'm actually listening and paying attention, right? And so they're more open to receive what I've got to say as well. I have to acknowledge him. I have to acknowledge his point of view, even when it's something that I know that like I don't agree with, right? And so that works better for me going one-on-ones with social media, right? Now, as far as the comments and stuff, you can post whatever, right? I don't believe though that memes and social media are the answer. I've seen a lot of memes about race. It doesn't do much on both ends. It doesn't do much at all. And in fact, it actually just sets the platform for more division because I can say whatever the heck I want with my Twitter fingers. I can type whatever I want behind closed doors, right? It creates more separation. You know, I even saw there was a friend of mine who just won an Olympic gold medal, right? And she's amazing. And then there was a meme put out of her next to, who's the soccer player with the hair combed over? She's amazing. She's like the greatest soccer player of women's history. I can't remember her name for the life of me, but she took a knee for the national anthem. And this thing said that conservatives dislike this woman who is white and took a knee, but they love this other woman who is my friend, who's also African American, who just won a gold medal. And I was peeved. I was really pissed off about that. It's like now we've gone to the point where this is going to take away from her. Like, this is her moment. This is hers. You don't get to take this away. This meme creates more division. It's not even a fight that we should be having. And the fact of the matter is that when you see people, you see organizations try to change it from they're talking about liberals and conservatives. I'm not talking about liberals and conservatives. I really don't give a dang what you believe in that fact. I really don't care. I could care less what your political agenda, what your political siding is. I don't care. That's not what I'm here for. This whole conservative liberal thing for me is excuse me, but it's a bunch of bullcrap. It's a bunch of bullcrap. This isn't about who you voted for. This isn't about who you support. This is about how do you treat a human being. It's about when you walk down the street, how are you carrying yourself and how do you look at others? I don't need a freaking president or a politician to tell me how to do that. I don't need to be on a left or a right side to do that. And really, for me, I don't consider myself either. I really don't care. I don't care enough. I shouldn't need somebody. And it's crazy to me. Like, we talk about, being free and all this, and yet we make politicians and which side more important than how we carry ourselves with people. It's like I need somebody who's a Democrat or Republican to be in office to know how I'm supposed to carry myself. Does that not sound pathetic to you? Is that not ridiculous to you? I don't care. I have no cares in the world about this. This is a simple fact of when it comes to me and you, when we cross on the street, how do you treat me? How do I treat you? How do I carry myself? How do you carry yourself? Do I have respect for you? Do I have enough respect for you? Like, can I look at your differences and not be offended and not be crazy? Can I look at your differences and be like, wow, I don't know anything about that. I have no experience with that. How can I grow with that? I need to learn something about that instead of looking at you being like, oh my gosh, what's this and that? Can I look at a wrong situation, knowing what it's about, and speak up? Can I go and talk with my friends about an issue that I've seen or anything and be like, hey, I need to ask you some questions about this. Can I be brave enough to stand to do the right thing? That's what it's about. And I don't need politicians and I don't need political sides or ploys to figure out how to do that. So this whole thing of what side I stand on, it's a bunch of bull. Thank you.
Jaden, we'd like to thank you for spending the afternoon with us today, but most importantly, welcome home.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome back to our state. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys very much for having me. Honestly, I'll be around just for a little bit if you guys want to talk and have more questions, but thank you guys for having me. And I just want you guys to know you guys can make a difference. So keep doing your thing. I'll be around. So thank you very much. Thank you.